What is up, guys? Welcome back to yet another video, and today I got a special treat for y'all today. We got a comparison review on the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the Samsung Galaxy A51. Let's get right into it. Now let's just go straight into the design. So first we can see, let's just take a look at the Galaxy S8 here. We see where the S8 was going in terms of the design. It came right after the S7 Edge, which was revolutionizing the game with the curved edge screen, and the S8 takes it up a notch, which has double curves on each side of the display. People have been hating on the idea of curved displays in the 2020 atmosphere, but personally I like it. It gives the phone more of a feel. Like, for example, when you're scrolling through web pages, playing games, watching movies, it feels like there's some definition, kind of, is the best way to put it, in each thing you're looking at. And also you can see how Samsung was starting to revolutionize the bezel-less display thing. And this took most of that off. It took all the side bezels off, and the only two bezels you have is one at the top and one at the bottom. At the side, we got the power and sleep button, and then on the left side right here, we got the Bixby button and the volume rockers. Samsung has since done away with this on future products, and many people hated on the Bixby button. The only time I've ran into issues with it is when I'm recording. I use my S8, and putting the clamp down is right on the Bixby button will have it start up, and it can be kind of annoying, but that's just a specific issue for me. Other than that, you can reprogram the button. I've used Google Assistant on it, and I reprogrammed it. Moving to the back, we got our camera, single camera, unlike all these other phones today. And then I have a fingerprint sensor right beside it. Samsung since moved it in the S9 because it was an inconvenience because you would brush up against the camera. Also, the flash is right on the left side of the camera. And we can see how the design has held up here. We got a beautiful glass back with metal along the sides, and it still looks great to this day. You can see how the S8 was still a flagship. And right at the bottom, we got our USB-C port, headphone jack, and also a single firing modern speaker. And we can see how times have changed with the A51. Taking a look at the design, we got this Infinity O display, which basically is an AMOLED display with a hole punch right at the top. Right at the sides here, on the right side we have our volume rocker and also the power button. Bixby is gone here. Taking a look at the back, now we have a beautiful prism black design. I absolutely love how this looks, and it's really cool how it reflects in certain lights. And as we can see how smartphones have progressed, is the 4 camera to setup with the flash right here. And moving to the bottom, we got the mono-firing speakers with the USB-C port and also a headphone jack. And this is all in a mid-range phone. And it's crazy how phones have accelerated in design and features throughout the 3 years apart these have been out. However, the Galaxy S8 does have a leg up when it comes to protection, because this has IP68 certification for water and dust. Also, the S8 also has wireless charging. Personally, I never use it. I think it's worse than USB-C charging, so it doesn't matter to me personally when I'm using a device like the A51. Okay, so the first thing that connects you with the device and what you're viewing is the screen, of course. The Galaxy S8 has a 1440 by 2960 display, and of course both of these phones are 60 Hertz. And this phone right here has a 1080 by 2400 resolution display. Real quick, one more thing I would like to add is that with the S8 you'll be getting a used phone. With the A51 you'll be getting a new phone. So with the S8 you'll most likely have some screen burn-in from the phone. Mine already has screen burn-in, and I know exactly what app it was used for. So if you want something new that's likely not to have screen burn-in, the A51 is probably your best option. And going into this display, you're not really missing much by going from the S8 to the A51. Both are pretty good screens. However, you will notice that the S8 in images and content does look a little bit sharper than the A51. This is due to it being both a smaller display at 5.8 inches compared to 6.4, and also it just has a better panel than the A51. However, the A51 still has a pretty good screen. Viewing content, movies, gaming, it all looks good on this as well as the S8, and you will be happy with either screen you get. One thing I would like to add is that colors do look a little bit saturated on the S8 compared to the A51. The A51 has more of a natural looking color palette when it comes to its screen, and it might have been just that the S8 was tuned more for brightness and pop of color compared to the A51. Okay, now what is powering these two great phones? For the S8, we got a Snapdragon 835 paired with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and with the S8, we got an Exynos 9611 processor along with 4 gigs of RAM as well. Now, when we fire up the Geekbench scores, you'll see that the S8 has better scores in both single and multi-core performance. Single core is not too far off from the A51, but when you head into the multi-core scores, that's when the S8 runs away from the A51. Now, how does this feel in day-to-day usage? So, when I use they both kind of perform similarly. However, when using the S8, things just perform a little bit faster. From like suggestions from keyboard, gaming looks a little bit better. Web pages, they open up about the same when I was doing my own speed test. But when it comes to heavier tasks, just as gaming, that's when you'll know that the S8 performs a little bit better. They both have the same amount of RAM, so when you're multitasking, switching to between apps, it kind of feels about the same for both devices to me. So if you want the sharpest performance, the S8 is your bet. If you just want something that can do everyday tasks from emailing, web browsing, videos, light gaming, both the A51 and the S8 will do just fine for you. Now, what is this running? We all know that both phones run Android. The S9 runs Android 9.0 with One UI 1.0. Meanwhile, the A51 runs Android 10 with One UI 2.1. It's really quite tragic that they couldn't get the S8 up to Android 10 because, as we've seen here, the S8 performs comparably or better than the A51. It still has great specs, but I don't know why Samsung couldn't put in the time or whatever development costs or whatever to put that operating system onto the S8. And this is why people kind of go towards Apple compared to the S8, because what I'm seeing when I read people's reviews, people's opinions on Reddit, Twitter, all that, is that they like the Android ecosystem, but if you're spending $1,000 to get a phone that will only be up to date for 2 years, when you could go to an Apple product and get a similar product that will be updated for 5-6 years, why would you get the Android? And I can see where they're coming from. But rant aside, Android 9, it doesn't feel like I'm losing too much when I go to the A51. The only thing I really miss from the A51 that I actually use that's on Android 10 is dark mode. But other than that, both phones should do the job for you, and both OSs are still pretty great. However, one thing I do want to say with both of these operating systems is that they do have bloatware. You will get Samsung apps, Samsung Internet, all those Samsung apps that you probably won't use, and you'll just end up using the Chrome/Google versions of these same apps. It's just something to note, but it's there. Another feature both of these share in common is the fingerprint sensor. However, both of these phones do it differently. The A51 has an in-screen fingerprint sensor. You just tap the screen and it'll open right up. However, it is inaccurate and can sometimes take a little bit longer than the S8. The S8 has a traditional physical fingerprint sensor at the back of the phone. The only flaw is that it'll brush up against the camera, which is something that you do not want. However, this fingerprint sensor is more accurate and it is also faster than the A51, so it's just something to note there. Now let's move on to cameras. At the back of these phones, we got a whole different camera setup. The S8 has a 12 megapixel camera with just one lens. The A51 does have a better camera setup. You get a 48 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensor, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and also a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. The Samsung's 12 megapixel camera stacks up well against the 48 megapixel main sensor that we do get from the A51. Both pictures are really good. I think in the S8's camera, you do get a little more color accuracy. It just might be how it's tuned. For example, in the dirt in this picture, it was a little more red compared to the A51 where it looks a little more flat to me. Now the A51 runs away from the Samsung Galaxy S8 here just because of the selection of cameras. If you want something close up, you can do the macro shot. However, the S8 can compete here as well as the A51 with its own macro sensor camera, because I think personally zooming does a lot of a better job than using the macro camera. However, what the S8 can't compete with is the wide angle camera. The wide angle here does give a pretty decent shots, and you do get a clear field of view of whatever you're trying to take. The 12 megapixel wide angle camera does give a clear view of what you're trying to take, and it's just not an option on the S8. So that's where the A51 begins to run away. Although Samsung does put the same camera software on the S8 and the A51, it is quite similar when you go through it. The A51 does have night mode, and it clearly shows because the A51 takes way better night shots than the S8. And it's just those little improvements that come in place over time that's showing on the A51 right here. Okay, last but not least is battery life. And spoiler alert, the A51 runs away right here. Even though the Exynos 9611 is not the most efficient in processors, this does have a 4000 milliamp hour battery, which is 1,000 more than the Galaxy S8. Using the A51, I was able to get through a full day. I go to work, I could wake up, listen to music, go to work, do like gaming while at work, come home, and I would still have maybe around 50% for the rest of the day. Now using the S8 in that same scenario, I would go to work and halfway through I would need to charge because the phone would just run out of battery. And this is not helped by the fact that the Samsung S8 will be used, so that means you might get a used battery. The Amazon Renewed program does promise that your battery will have 90% charge left, but mine has about a 73% life on it, so that does not help situations at all. But even when new, I think the A51 will clearly beat the S8 in day-to-day situations. Now let's get into the verdict of this. How much does each phone cost? So the A51 with my spec, that's 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, is about $280 from Amazon. If you want an S8, they're about $150 to about $250 used for the best conditions. Also, another thing I've seen that Amazon does have some new versions for $500. If you are just an average user, I would not recommend spending $500 on a Galaxy S8 in 2020. So let's just say this cost $190. So for $100 more, you do get a better camera, a better battery, a newer OS, a bigger screen, less bezels. Although the S8 is a really great device, I do have to give the win to the Galaxy A51. If you are looking for a Galaxy S device, I would probably recommend the Galaxy S9 because they do have some minor fixes that was on the Galaxy S8, and it's also probably going to be getting the Android One 2.1 system, so it will still be up to date. However, this doesn't mean that the S8 is a slouch. The S8 still does really well in 2020 and it's still my main phone, and I don't really intend on replacing it anytime soon. If you have an S8 or S9 and you're looking at the Galaxy A51, I probably wouldn't recommend upgrading it to it, and I'd probably look somewhere else. But that's it for me. If you like this video, please subscribe, please like the video, please share. Let's get 3 likes on this video, and either a Galaxy A51 or S8 of your dreams will appear under your pillow at night. All jokes aside, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope it helped you make a purchasing decision if you wanted to buy any of these. I have more videos coming up. I got a separate review of each of these coming up, and I also got more interesting content along the way, as well as some news coming to the channel. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and like the video. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great one. Peace.